Good evening, everyone. I, Dr. Jagmeet Kaur, on behalf of the organizing committee, welcome you all in day two of 1 week international faculty development program on research methods, tools, and technique for multidisciplinary research design. I also welcome our worthy principal, Sir Dr. Surinder Kumar, in absentia, for his constant support and guidance. I extend my warm welcome to our resource persons for today's technical session, Dr. Fallen D. Mobo and Dr. Subha Gora. I would like to invite our first resource person, Dr. Fallen D. Mobo. Dr. Fallen is a graduate of Doctor in Public Administration and also a graduate of doctorate degree in Government Education. He was appointed as the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Multidisciplinary Applied Business and Education Research. He is an external peer reviewer in various international research journals and has been invited as a keynote speaker at various international conferences and universities. At present, he is appointed as Technical Research Evaluator by the Department of Science and Technology and has published 82 research articles. I invite Dr. Frolin to share his view about how to write research articles and get it published in a reputed journals. Over to you, sir.
Start. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, and in our community research unit. So, my task for today is about to deliver the reputable topics on how to write research, which is indexed on the Web of Science and, of course, in the Scopus. Okay. So before we start, let me give you some insights on writing articles or writing papers in preparation for a highly published article in those highly indexed databases. Part of that, of course, let us know how to write a proper research paper. Of course, the academic community greatly values research articles. And part of that, in addition, it's very important that you need to significantly know the process of the acceptance, of course, plus the impact of having it being peer reviewed first on the part of knowing what is the level of your paper which is being published in different journals. And part of that, in addition, a large number of scholars or even students who want to apply for advanced publication will be able to proceed in several stages. Of course, from looking for a particular journal, which will be later, I'm going to share that. And the importance is, of course, how to write it properly from the from step one, going to the whole processes of writing, of course, a good research article for peer-reviewed journals in Scopus and in Web of Science index journal. So, guys, it's very important that the tone of writing that we are doing, especially when we write research, it is very important to know the step-by-step processes so that once we are going to submit that in those highly impact factor journals, especially in Index in Web of Science and Scopus, the acceptance rate would be something like between 90 to 100%. Because sometimes the common problems that authors and students have experienced because the lack of uh, exact accurate data or information or processes that we have uh, included in your paper. So it's very important to check those gray areas which can help you to improve your writings and later the paper will be accepted. So part of that, there are several steps, of course. Of course, the article, the research topic must ought to be, of course, originally supported by sound reasoning. That's why I'm telling this from the very start of the beginning of each particular writing principle. It is very important that when you come up with a good topic, it is very important that when you
Mhm.
submit that to a particular Scopus or Web of Science journal, you should check their criteria. Part of that, you should understand the tools that authors in their field would be able to know the topics particularly, especially if the topics about for example, about educational technology or social science, you see to it that the topic will be able to fit in the journal. Because sometimes the main reasons that their paper was being rejected in those highly indexed databases because it's out of scope. For example, if you're going to an index of Web of Science, which is the focus of their research is more of education, and then you submitted a health science, which is part of that is not it's out of scope. So definitely the chances of being accepted will be lessened because of the issues that you need to uh, look for a particular journal that will accept it and plan out your experimental design thoroughly. In addition, it's very important to know how you have conducted your research design, your study from those experiments preferably, and how you have done those tasks based on the extensive points. Of course, by launching into practical work, would be able to give you a frequent uh, research design. By experimenting everything, you'll be able to know that the study that you're doing has a positive impact, especially in writing income doing a particular article which can be accepted in those highly indexed databases. And of course, be careful when selecting your resources when creating your experiment because it is very important that when you cite, of course, a literature, it's very important that that topic will be it's relevant, of course, on your particular topic, so that later, when you have already structured your paper, uh, lesser mistakes will be seen by the peer reviewer because the common mistake sometimes it's on the technical framework. So that for you, your paper to get accepted in a matter of between 80 or to 100%, it's very important to do it, to do the rigid process that would be able to give similar functions or reality in some issues about piece, writing up a particular paper. And then, of course, it's also good that if you will consult a professional, it will also help because from there you will be able to get rationale about those different research techniques that would be able to help you to know how to come up with a good particular paper as long as that uh, person that you are asking or you're consulting is really expert on the particular research because guys, even we are all authors or great writers, we have our own field of specialization. So you have to make sure that the person that you are consulting is a highly expert on the particular topic. If he specializes in a particular area, for example, in educational technology, so it's very important that person is knowledgeable. Then understand the topic that you want to research. Why? It's because from there you would be able to sense that on the part of the introduction, which will be later, I'm going to discuss it one by one. It's very important, of course, to know that there should be a research gap. What's a research gap? Of course, there are some problems that you have encountered. From there, you would be able to refine it and get these specific objectives, and you can align it based on the title, based on the rationale, based on the research gap, and you would be able to align it in accordance with the what are those objectives or statement of the problems that might be uh, answering those particular queries for the improvement of the paper. And then before you begin your task, you have to be able to clearly establish an hypothesis, which is aligned, of course, on those objectives or statement of the problem. From this, you would be able to know that the response of the author is highly significant or it has a positive result. Okay? So through thoughts are worthwhile to record, make sure to maintain your attention, then know your endpoints and maintain focus. So occasionally, data collection is been done from time to time. Okay? And you want to learn more about the topic, so you have to explore deeper and carry out what particular topic or investigation that you want to do. From there, would be able to graph your problems because you have a research gap. One by one, you can have a specific problems, and then from there, the results and discussion will be able to align it in according to the statement of the problem, going to the title. And then you need to consider where you would want to publish in the research. You know, guys, nowadays there are so many predatory journals which is being flashed on the Facebook page or in other social media. So part of that, you should consider how reputable or how or high or how what is the impact factor of a particular journal. It's very important to check every aspects, every parts. Okay, and another in inclusion of that statement number 9, it's also important to ensure, of course, the reliability of the data. So as long as it is being subjected to do the process, you have to follow thorough processes, and there's a need to have an understanding between those researchers. Then read and adhere to every one of the journal's instruction for preparing manuscript. So it's very important when you write your paper. You should always check because that is one of the many reasons why the paper is sometimes being declined, being need to resubmit, or worse is rejected totally, and it will not be accepted by uh, fewer chances will be given. So it's very important to do the process particularly. Make sure that you have a hypothesis that states properly of this, which the research is being performed, which the research is being asked, and write as though your efforts, whether those significant or a relationship between the both variable, will be able to have a meaningful and significant definition of what this research is all about. So get your paper reviewed by an outside peer review using any journal, inspect before submission, and check it. So it's very important if you want to do the process, you have to check the similarity report, or we call that plagiarism checker. So those are very normal on the part of the in our part of our community. Then ensure your paper reads smoothly. Uh, because if you have done this, definitely you would be able to of get rid out of those stresses. And of course, the statement English is concise, clear, and grammatically sound. It's very important to practice that, and always try to set up a review by a native language speaker if there's a need. Okay, so sometimes it's a case to case basis. Okay, so how to format a journal paper. There are so many ways, but this is the only way where you can totally reformat a particular full paper to an IMRAD form, and it depends on what type of research or uh, uh, publisher that you want to submit. So it's very important to check everything to know the details of the journal, if it's predatory or reputable. And always be cautious that every database has they have their own uh, checker or system that will be able to check everything. Okay? So what is considered a high impact factor for a journal? So sometimes 10 or high, sometimes it has a 10 or greater is considered an excellent score, while 3 is flagged as good and the average source is less than 1. So it's very important to know that. Okay? So another, how to target your research at a high impact factor. So let us define what's a high impact factor journalist. So in academic publishing, aiming high means selecting a target. No pa. This is just like the same of looking a particular reputable journal, but with this, with those impact, definitely it will strengthen our support to discuss furtherly about what's a high impact journal. Okay? Sometimes when you submit a particular paper here, sometimes it will take several stages, and sometimes it could take a matter of 5 or 6 output. So, what is a high impact factor? So, it's very important to detect everything to check whether there are some gray areas that you want to have to clean it up. Okay. And ways to measure impact, of course, you will be able to check the H index. Okay. You would be able to get citations from there. And most important all is you will be able to meet friends that will build up the research community. Okay. And then part of it, citation analysis becomes more uh, popular because there are some citation analysis which is also connected on the part of the construction. Then we cannot even say that the house has a quality structure because that was being based from other authors who are uh, finding. Okay. And then citation analysis, it's the process whereby the impact or quality of an article is assessed by counting the number of times other authors. So we have to check on that. Okay. That's the reason why there are a number of resources that identify certain works, including, of course, we have the Web of Science, Scopus, and other scholars. So once your papers be categorized with this output, so it will not be, it is easier for us to go on that. So those are important a way to how to measure the impact of your uh, submitted paper in a journal. Another, there are so many platforms that we can use in determining the similarities of a particular article. For example, what is being shown to the screen is how you will be able to come up with this kind of platforms that will help up or others it might uh, produce problems in the near future. And then the impact factor is as a measurement of the frequency in which the average article is in the journal. So it depends on how they would be able to arrange with it. But all heads or other heads, they are doing their own thing. So it's very important to come up with a good research title from your article, which is one of the first indicators that the readers will be able to get insights, techniques. It should also be well accurate or structured and be informative so that you'll be able to see anything, correlate it, as long as the title is connected to several platform. Okay. Then keywords. Of course, keywords plays a vital role because if you're going to browse the particular search engine, once you type this one, uh, the owner will be stand. They should do particular important things, and keywords help a lot. For example, if you have a title of your study and you have apply it for publication, it is very important to get all the details of the so it can help us to conduct more research as part of the community extension. So for the part of the introduction, it is a pivotal part of the article writing process. An introduction not only introduces your topic and your stance on the uh, this group. So it's very important to have a discussion on this because it plays a vital role in every aspect. So on the part of the methodology, it is very important to separate this one because it can have or we the campus will be able to have a problem soon. Right. So those are important factors in writing paper. So you have to follow the IMRAD, which is also most of the common highly impact factor journal or index in Web of Science or Scopus is to go process by process. If there's a one big method, it should be subdivided, and from there, those methods can be explained, detailed, and there should be a consent form. Okay, okay, hello. Okay,
Mm,
so
okay.
it's very important to do with those processes. And of course, another part is the resultant discussion. It may be combined into a single section or presented separately. So it depends on how you analyze it, how you explain it. So of course, the research preliminaries or the article should be aligned accordingly to different journals, which is really they are reputable enough to be considered. Okay, so these are some of the discussions, and we also have this. Of course, the conclusion state clearly. The main conclusion of the research can give uh, explanation, and those are factors that would be able to define. And of course, there are some references and citation that should be included. For example, if there's a citations which is irrelevant on your topic, on your submitted paper to a particular index or index in Web of Science or Scopus, once you have done those mistakes, definitely it will give an impact on you as a person. So it is very important to check from time to time and to do it in a proper places. Okay. So citation plays a vital role, and also of course other factors that will be able to help. So there's a discussion or questions. What is the difference between the IPA 6 or between the APA 7? Uh, okay, version. So many students have used 6 version of APA in their previous education programs, but it depends on how they will be able to implement it. Excuse me. So those are factors that we need to consider. Another thing, this referencing style is being introduced in 2009, and part by part it was being introduced in other university. So key chance of at a glance, you need to consider these factors so that the paper would be easily be accepted. But if you're not going to follow all these aspects pertaining to the job of your core, so you have to check everything. You have to check the website name, the cited author, the publication location, so everything. Of course, plus the uh, that can connect to the main frame of the uh, discussion. Okay, so citations, of course, give us readers the opportunity to see where you got your information. It's very important to critique on your side, on your sources, on what is happening. Okay, and hoping that it will be discussed to your uh, staff. And then another, when we cite a particular topic, so it's very important to connect it with phrases, and you'll be able to get it. Okay, so part of it, it will always give you a good processes. So when writing a research paper, you have to grow all those requirements that will be able to help the whole processes when we write research paper. So when writing a research article, the process of moving from one idea to particular published manuscript can be give uh, a, a problem because we cannot proceed because of the situation. Okay, so these are the basic on how to write a particular research article that will that would be beneficial on every aspects. I can go to like my proper. Excuse me. And then determine the authors. So when designing a research project or an article, we should be able to get all the topic, and we could recommend preparing an initial list in order of authors. So such list will be able to help, okay, the proper writing processes. Start writing before the experiments are complete. Sometimes what we are doing to come up with a good title, so I already mentioned this a couple of minutes ago. So it's very important to know how you would be able to start with a good uh, uh, title, then come up with a good content. But you have to read references that is suitable to your uh, study, okay? Because when we use those platform, it can easily give us a particular solution. Okay, so we can do the following: start those area. Then, of course, this is another topic which is being discussed last time. Select the best services that you can have. Okay, and I know it's normal, but at the end of the day, we should always be aware and we should always check. Okay, then of course you should check the statement which or the medium which they are also using on the part of the author and the beneficiary or even the journal. Thus, it's very important to know, okay, where they can be placed. Okay, so we can restructure the whole processes, the whole aesthetic of design of the uh, journal. So it's a case-to-case basis. Then another focus: what type of research does a journal publish? So it is it is very important that the journal that you're looking to, uh, you have to make sure that all items are there. Okay, then so you should check on the focus. And then what is a Google Scholar? Of course, a Scholar is a search engine manipulating tool that focuses on academic research. Of course, it is a good alternative to Google search because it focuses more on scholarly journals and publications which are often not included in the standard web searches. Okay, so later we will talk about it and know more. So why is it better than Google search between Google Scholar? Because from here you'll be able to get all the insights, all the things that we can have it approved by the uh, okay. So we have to check every aspects, every factor. Okay, and then another, how does Google Scholar work? So when you use Google Scholar to search all those articles or all those information, it will give you a result of the different types of sources, books, and peer-reviewed journals. It will be able to help our group in terms of uh, having a touch office, and of course, it can also give ranking, scholar ranking on the system. Okay. Then an increasingly popular article in the database is the Google Scholar. So sometimes uh, you need to proceed with that so that you'll be able to know how is it safe, okay, to travel there. So those are techniques that I have already discussed to you. So on that part, it is very important, of course, uh, on the part of economics or this topic, that it will help you to know more. Okay. Okay. So those are the basic concepts. So Google, this platform can also help you in terms of not only in referencing style, but also in how to check the uh, author. Okay. So don't ever pay for an article as long as it meets the requirements. It's very important, of course, to submit it. If they do not reply, that's the time for you to inform. Okay. Then use the citation feature. It will be able to get you on our traffic and other areas. Then why does this indexing uh, find the article? So as you see on your screen, we have an good example of research a scholar profile. So we have this one, we have the citation, and we have a index in the uh, okay. So it's very important to know those article which is really can give you impact factor on the part of the research profile, especially if that is under the research gate. So you can determine it. By this, you would be able to know how the journal is really visible. Of course, the author is visible. Sometimes you can also check their profile if they are really indexed in the Web of Science. And there, you can also check declarable analytics whether they are really still included, no, in the library. So you should check on that using this kind of platform. And then, I have already discussed a while ago about the role of this technology, or even Google, or even a particular topic, because it can give uh, good insights about this. And another, a citation generator is also can also help you. Okay, it can create automatically referencing style citations. Okay, and then uh, we can proceed, we can research. Okay, so we have the citation generators, very basic. Let's see. Uh, just this one can help the entire system. Then of course we have a surface for me. Okay, so from here we would be able to know the development of a particular author. We can easily have it cite them, or you can look for particular how the article is reputable. So we also have this is a good another good website which is can create a an author referencing and author citations wherein you can get it easily. So of course, in terms of referencing style, especially if the format can be used, for example, in a page, it depends on the writing technique of a particular author. But what I want to add is that not only this platform, but a checker can help, or a Grammarly checker can help. How can they arrange or fix everything, and also uh, those. people that will help or do this. So from there, a grammar checker or any brand of grammar checker will help do the thing. You know? It can also detect similarity or plagiarism. And we have this Skillbot. This is a good platform where when you can check the percentage of your paper. From there, it will help you if this paper is good enough. So citation plays a vital role because citation must be also be accurate and complete because if those process been done, definitely there are no more problems in uh, the space and you can cite them carefully. Then interpreting the similarity report also plays a vital role because from here you would be able to get insight that the paper was already being submitted or on the stage of checking everything. So it's very important to check it uh, one by one. Okay. So interpreting the similarity report plays a big role. Because of that, they would be able to know that the paper has a problem. Then they can adjust using this part. For example, if we have this plagiarism checker, turn it in, it can help you gain uh, authors who do the transaction. And of course, when interpreted of that, there are some several areas where when you can match in which the color has a meaning. Okay, so it's again it's a case to case based, but you make sure uh, that the paper met the standard of the journal. So you have to check it part by part how the percentage is. So you should know it. For example, between the indicators of the similarity, so it's very important to know what percentage are we in now. Okay, so it can easily detect all aspects. Then of course, just look at what I had mentioned a while ago. The color of the uh, submission. So depends on us as long as it will answer every uh, every questions. Okay. For example, if your paper's been detected with blue, it means it's a good paper. There are no matching text. But if your paper got a particular similarity in green, that's still good. But if that is more than 25% going to upper part, they will not uh, give opportunity to work in my house. So we make sure that we have to follow the particular uh, standard, gold standard, so that we are really prepared. So how the originality report works, the acceptable platform can be used for similarity score, and from there you'll be able to set standard, a high standard with that will uh, that will be discussed or might be used. Okay. And so the color red indicates a score of between 75% to 100%, which means that you can still do it, but be careful in that particular area. So if it denotes a red mark, so which means the paper is not good. There's a need to revise it and place a particular uh, platform to check the similarity. Okay, and finally, uh, we also have to check the scores. So we've already done it, and I how those expert or teachers can give an 100% authenticity. So just like what I mentioned a while ago, so it's a case to case basis. But from there, if you have all the records, you can highly give them a particular topic, then it can be discussed. Okay, and then you'll be able to get also an answer on what is happening now right now in the whole system. Okay, so plagiarism prevention. So it's very important, of course, to double check this one because guys, a lot of uh, journals are using this platform as part of the international standard. And part of this, we all know that we should know how to use this, just like what I mentioned a while ago. We're using interneting as part of that. And of course, the higher the similarity reports which is being done, the lesser the of chances the journal will be, the paper will be accepted in a highly reputable journal. So how you'll be able to know about it? So Turnitin similarity sometimes can set 20% and above because if it has a 20% more than that, the paper will not be accepted and be considered to be in published in the particular uh, research journal. So there's a question that what is the exact uh, percentage, acceptable percentage? So it depends on the standard of the institution. If they want to send less than 10%, it's still okay as long as they follow the exact procedure. And 20% in other areas is higher, and it will give your paper's content that the paper was not plagiarized. So it is better to use this, okay, as part of the platform that can detect anything. Okay, so for me as a practitioner researcher, it's very important to follow all the aspects so that later if you're going to submit your paper in a web of science index or Scopus, so they will be able to validate everything. Okay, and also be careful that in terms of plagiarism issues, you have to check or consult expert that will able to help you and to guide you, just to avoid problems that will arise soon. Okay, so you have to do those methods, do the right process, and make sure to have it approved by the board or group of your group of the research. So uh, it's very important to do that. And of course, before we end up, I'd like to invite, of course, all scholars and researchers that this coming February 25 will be launching an international webinar on writing and publishing academic books. So we have the following topics on the left side, and it is a good part that we can, if we can attend, okay? And we always have a call for paper every month. So the journal is under uh, evaluation now in the Web of Science, of course, and our journal is already indexed in European publishers. From there, uh, hopefully, the journal will be accepted to be indexed in the Web of Science, and it will be a good opportunity to all researchers and scholars once the journal is being indexed, and they can help the journal will be able to help. Okay, so with that, thank you for attending my session, and hopefully you have learned many things about this discussion. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask me. So that would be all on my side. So thank you again for attending, and thank you for inviting me. So that would be all. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, sir. We still have 10 minutes. If any participant have any doubt, they can raise their question.
Yeah, this is for clarification.
Good evening,
And
sir.
yes, sir.
Sir, when we are talking about the methods that we have to use, and you are telling us you have to make section and subsection on this, will you please explain that one? I could not get it. What you are mean to say actually? How will
On
you
the
divide section and subsection in that
when
method
you
part?
divide the sectioning, sometimes you can, for example, like you can have divide it. For example, what type of research design, what type of sampling, what is your sampling method, what's the sampling size, what's the what is your instrument that you have used, and if there's a need to include the consent form, and how did you do the data gathering process. So just like the same full paper in a particular thesis or dissertation. So it's very important to discuss it, specific detailed discussion. So you can include all those area, but in a paragraph form, sir. But sometimes it depends on the journal and how you will be able to uh, uh, conceptualize it.
Sir, is it necessary to write a research paper and we have to make that method that much clear? If it is a thesis and different thing, but is it necessary for a research paper to mention all those things?
Sometimes it depends on the journal. If the journal is indexed in Web of Science or Scopus, they will require you, of course, because the more that the journal is indexed in a highly reputable journal, so they will look into a particular methodology that they should know that the research must be specific. Because if you're just going to put, if there's a missing area in your methodology, definitely the paper will be rejected. So it's very important to discuss everything, because that in that way they will be able to give a particular concise and uh, clear perspective, so that your paper will be accepted. Because if you're not going to push to do that process, definitely they will reject your paper. Just like what uh, those experiences that we have encountered and practices. So we make sure that we have to do the writing in all the process. That's why we need to include all the sections. But part of that, you can minimize everything as long that it is clearly defined in your methodology. All the aspects and the basic aspects. Okay?
One more question, sir. Actually,
Yes, sir.
regarding the length of a paper in a index journal, sir, is there any ideal length that we have to write?
The minimum words that you can write, something is between 3,000 to 5,000 words. Those are the exact figure that I have encountered in journal which is indexed in a European, in a Scopus or Web of Science, because they just want to make sure that you have clearly the uh, specified or design that is in accordance with the problems and the research gap that they have encountered. So usually 3,000 to 5,000 words.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you also, sir. Yes.
Uh,
Yes, Mary. Yes.
uh,
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for this nice presentation. And it was really enlightening to understand the publication. As I am a research scholar, I would like to understand how to write review paper, like what to keep in mind when we write review paper, because it's like there are a lot of chances of getting into plagiarism, and there are a lot of chances to into reading the same article or same kind of content twice. So sometimes we tend to get confused when we write review paper. So what are the things we should keep in mind when we write a review paper?
Of course, when we write a review paper, it is very important to cite the uh, topics which is closely relevant to your topic. So you just do not copy and paste the exact words coming from the author, but if there's a need to connect the phrases that uh, you want to connect it, for example, the citation of for example, Einstein, and you want to connect those phrases to a particular author again. So as long as you create particular phrases that has a connection phrases on that, then definitely those areas that we are talking about will be limited to page to similarity or plagiarism, but later it will still have the same thought that if there's a similar words, for example, the word about your name or the name of your institutions, it will be reflected, it will be detected. So it's a case-to-case basis. Another, did I answer your question, sir? Ma'am?
Uh,
Yes, Rahul.
yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for that great presentation on that. Sir, my question is that if I have already done some work and I want to use that work in my next paper, so can I cite my own paper? Own paper means can we
Uh,
cite
Self-citation.
self-citation?
Actually, if you're going to cite yourself, those databases that I have mentioned, for example, in ResearchGate, your citation will not be credited. Of course, it's unethical to do that
Right.
because you are citing your own paper. It's not really, it's a no-no on the part of us as a researcher. So it is better to cite another work, okay, of an author, because it's unethical. It's really not good to cite yourself because it will not be counted even in research in Google Scholar and also in ResearchGate. So it's very important to look for a particular relevant topic which is suited on your area. Okay, sir?
Yes, sir. One more question is there.
Yes,
Sir,
sir. Please.
one is a review paper, another one is survey paper, one is case study paper, and one is research paper, right? Four kind of papers: research
Yes,
paper,
sir.
case study paper, survey paper, and review paper.
Yes, sir.
So, sir, how to differentiate between review paper and survey paper? Let's say I am starting as a PhD candidate. Now I want to review, I want to do some literature review. So, how to differentiate between survey paper and review paper?
So with those questions that you have asked, it depends on the template of the journal. Sometimes it will be lesser than 3,000 words. But if that is a full IMRAD, it will require to between 3,000 to 500 words. But if it's for example, a concept paper, sometimes it will only require you a matter of less than 3,000 words. So it's a case-to-case basis wherein you will be able to cite those articles as long as they are relevant. Okay, so it's a case-to-case basis, sir.
Okay. Sir, one more is that, sir, many times I have seen many papers, they, some papers have more than 150 references, some papers have 50 references, some paper have only 10 references. So is it matter any, is there any ideal number of references in any kind of paper?
As long as it can answer your research problem, there are no problems. For example, if you have 20 references, as long as it answers, it is related, it's relevant to your topic that you're trying to mention. There's no limit, but on my own experience, you should have at least 10 literature review.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, you are welcome, sir. Anything more, guys? Anything more? So I'm inviting you this
So
coming
can you share
Saturday.
the
Yes, yes, sir.
PPTs?
Yes, sir. Yes, please. Yes. Any questions? Sir Rabi Kumar, questions, please. So, to ask something?
So can you share the PPT with
Oh, yeah. I can share the PPT. I'll just send it to the organizing committee, and then they will just share to you. If that's okay with the organizing committee, ma'am. Can I just share it to you?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay. Any more questions or
I think
clarifications?
the participants are satisfied now. There are no more questions. Uh,
I think
thank
there's
you,
one
sir.
more. Okay.
One, okay.
Yes. Hello.
Sir, thank you. Thank you very much for giving very valuable guidance for writing the research paper. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you also for the invitation.
Thank you, sir. Your matchless amalgam of knowledge and expertise has enlightened us with various techniques of writing research articles and getting them published in reputed journals, especially Web of Science and Scopus. Once again, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you also, ma'am.
Now it's time to invite our second resource person of technical session 2, Dr. Subha Gora. Dr. Subha is an associate professor in KL University, Hyderabad. She is a gold medalist and passionate about fields of development, teaching, and research. Dr. Subha has around 8 years of experience in teaching undergraduate and postgraduate courses. I welcome you, ma'am. I request ma'am to kindly continue with this session and share her knowledge and experience.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good
I,
evening,
on the onset, I ask everyone to excuse me. I have a technical glitch because of which I'm unable to switch on my mic. But I'm extremely happy to be here and share a few insights on how the MLA Style Sheet 9th edition serves the needs of the researchers. One second, I'm sharing my screen. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Can I continue? Am I?
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we are talking about MLA, what does it mean and how does it actually help? Why do we take only a few style sheets? And in the first place, why is style sheet very important is what I would like to bring to you. As researchers, we do need authentic material. And when we say MLA, as you all know, the full form being Modern Language Association style of formatting, is very popular among the various humanities disciplines. So it has recently brought about the 9th editions, which serves the needs of researchers in two ways. One, to help us publish professionally. In the sense, it helps us not only in formatting and styling the concerns that we have regarding the effect of writing on research papers, but also it's kind of helps us to tell our audience that that the author is not plagiarizing, that the author is authentically citing. I'm extremely sorry. I have a little bad throat, so please excuse me for that. So, as we know, it's been widely used, be it in the language studies, linguistics, philosophy, communication, religion, and many other. So, these two main purposes: uniformity of format of the document, be it in the form of layout, or be it the documentation of sources, is what MLA style sheet helps us keeping a tab on. So what does it regulate? Why is it so important? If you look at it, it can be divided into three different aspects. So MLA style sheets, first aspect is the format of the document. If we have a common format, it would standardize, uh, you know, the printing purpose and also the way we refer and the way we can put forth our research work. So then it standardizes in-text citations, and it also standardizes works cited list, so that there is no scope for any confusion. These are the three major areas that I would be talking about in the next few minutes. So it has been updated in 2016, the ninth edition. Especially, it's an huge. It has focused on, clearing the doubts, which the MLA 8th edition has put forth. So it's clarification, guidance, and expansion of the 8th edition. And also, apart from that, it has. Why I have use the term expansion is because if you look at the sources that we are going to these days, it's innumerous, right? So works cited through clarification expansion mainly falls into three guiding principles. So the first principle, while retaining the overall system of core elements, which the MLA style sheet 8th edition has put forth for documentation, it also clarifies and expands on the meaning of each of the categories, be it source, be it author, be it title of the container, version, contributor, n number of different contexts of documentation. So the writer must examine and document based on the set of universal principles, which we would be looking into. The second principle is many scholars might use the same source. So therefore, becomes necessary for us that we need to source them differently. I mean, cite them differently. So a writer who is working on a specialized topic in a particular field should include the documentation information, who uses specifically, and who does not use it, on a specialized topic, and who is using it generally, might just give it in the list. The third principle, if you look as a writer, the document sources should be cited in a systematic, orderly manner, because your readers should be able to locate them. If they want to, learn about a particular argument that you have brought up in the essay, they should be able to go back to the original source and, expand their interest and satiate their inquisitiveness. So when you give a proper citation, it's like, it adds to your credibility. It shows that you have thoroughly researched your topic. It shows that you are so sincere in acknowledging where you have taken a particular idea, or that you have, in-depth researched about an idea, and you have given cross references. And it also shows how comprehensive and how, vast your research is. So your citation must definitely be very comprehensive and consistent, so that the readers might find the sources consulted and come to their own opinions about your topic if they want to write a review paper or, refer back to your work. If you I would like to now present the overview of this presentation. So it will cover how to format a paper in MNA style according to the 9th edition. So I'll give you a few general guidelines, then the first page format, then section heading, and then in-text citations, formatting, quotations, and documenting the core elements, and also the list of works cited. Now, one of the basic rule for any formatting, always follow your instructor's guidelines, because there are a number of exceptions, small exceptions to many different MLA style sheet rules. So this becomes mandatory. Always follow your instructor's guidelines. Please, highlight it, and please make it as a blind rule. When I say always follow your instructor's guidelines, I mean it to the T. Now, if you look at the general guidelines, we all know, usually it is on a white paper, typed, on a 8.5 into 11-inch paper. Always the entire document being double spaced, be it the headings, be it the block quotation, be it the footnote, endnote, anything. There should be no extra spaces between paragraphs, and everything should be in double quotes. Then always use 12 point times New Roman or similar font, and then leave only one space after punctuation mark, unless and otherwise instructed by your instructor. As I told, MLA style sheet regulations have a number of exceptions. Then set all margins to 1 inch on all sides, and indent the first lines of the paragraphs to ½ inch from the left margin. So another important aspect I would like you to remember while indenting is that many a times it so happens we tend to press the space bar 5 times and adjust the indent. No, MLA style sheets recommend that you use the tab keys for this first line indenting, as it helps. And then set your tab key to, the 5 space. That's a different story, but always use tab. Then if you have a header, in very rare cases, we omit, but usually it's always there in any style sheet. Have a header with page number located in the right upper hand corner, and create the header so that the numbers, it numbers all the pages consecutively. So it should be in the right hand corner, and then it should be ½ inch from the top and flush towards the right margin. Okay. So your instructor might sometimes ask you to omit the number on your first page. So it's again left to the instructor's choice. So if the project has several authors, then what do we do? So do not fill the header. Please use only page numbers in such cases. All right. Then use italics throughout your essay for title if the titles are, longer. And if you have any endnotes, include them in a separate page before your works cited list. All right. Next, how do we format the first page? The first page should always be an individually written MLA a, mm, style paper. It does don't make the title page unless specifically requested or the paper is assigned as a group project. All right. In case of group projects, especially, list all the names. Please do not forget the contributors. You need to give credit to each by giving each name its own line in the header. All right. Then the reminder would be the standard MLA style sheet as I described now. In the upper left corner of the first page, list your name, your instructor's name, the course, and the date. Again, be sure to use double space text. As I have already mentioned, double space is the key. Again, double space and always center the title. Do not underline, do not italicize, or place your title in quotation marks. Write the title. In the title case, standard capitalization is what we use, isn't it? When we write the title case, just the way I did so here. Never put it in all caps. All right. Then use quotation marks or italics when referring to other works in your title, just as you would in the text. But then you need to give, the same respect and style the way you do your titles when you are putting other works as well. Then double space between the line and the first line of the text again. If you observe everywhere, double space is the key. Then create header in the upper hand right corner. That includes your last name followed by a space with a page number. And then always remember, whenever you give page number, have number all the pages consecutively with Arabic numerals. All right. And they should always be 1.5 inch from the top, flushed towards the right margin. All right. Again, ask your instructor, because sometimes your instructors might ask you to omit the last name or page number header on your first page. So cross-check that with your instructor. Anything that you do, you need to cross-check for exceptions. Now, if you observe this page, this is what we were discussing till now. All right. So one more reminder, do not make the title page for your paper unless specifically requested. So if you observe in the upper left-hand corner of the first page, it has the list of your name, your instructor's name, the course, and the date. And if you observe, it's double spaced again. Again, double spaced, and the title brought to the center, not underlined, not italicized, right? And then quotation marks for the title. And if you observe the title, it is standard capitalization, not all caps, right? So I just put it in there for you to just observe the way it is formatted. I hope that's clear. So moving on. Now, how do we format section headings? If you observe here, writers sometimes use section headings to improve the document's readability, comprehensibility, right? So how do we format this? What is the purpose? We have, as we already discussed, it's about readability, better comprehensibility, right? So these might include either individual chapters or named parts of a book or a essay. So those are called section headings. So what does the MLA style sheet recommend? It recommends that when you divide the essay into sections, you number those sections with Arabic number, and a period should be followed by a space and a section name. And if it is a book, it does not have a prescribed system of heading for books. So if you're using only one level of heading, meaning that all the sections are distinct and parallel and have no additional sections that fit within them, then it recommends that these sections resemble one another grammatically. All right. For instance, if your headings are typically short phrases, what do? You make all of the headings short phrases. Okay. Otherwise, the formatting is up to you. It should, however, at any given point in time when you're talking about such things, consistency is the key. Whatever you do, be consistent throughout the document. If you employ multiple levels of heading, for example, let it be that way all through the document. All right. So be consistent in the way you format your entire document. It's totally up to you. So these are just sample section headings. You see the numbered format, then the unnumbered format. If you are following the numbered format, follow it consistently all through the document. If you're following the unnumbered format, follow it so all through the document. All right. You can employ whatever system you want, but be consistent throughout your document. That's the key here. Either this or that. Decide right at the very beginning and be consistent. Please do not change. All right. So what about the in-text citations? How are we to go about it? So what is an in-text citation? It's a brief reference in your text that indicates the sources that you consulted during your research, right? The source information in a parenthetical citation should direct the readers towards the source entry, isn't it? So that we were talking about the importance of the style sheet. This is what it does, right? If someone is interested in a particular thought, they might go back to the works cited list and they could consult the original text. Next, the in-text citation should always be placed wherever it's possible, where there is a natural pause in your text. All right. If the citation refers to a direct quotation, then you can directly place the follow directly be placed with closing the quotation mark. All right. And any source of information that you provide in text must always correspond to the source of information on the works cited page. I could say this to be more specific. Whatever single word or phrase you may provide to your readers in the text must be the first thing that appears on the left-hand margin of the corresponding entry in the works cited list. Okay, so usually it happens that you give the author's last name or the title, and then you don't give any punctuation in the middle. All right. So you in text you can have a look at this example that I have given here. So the format follows author page method of in-text here. And what does this mean? This means that the author's last name and page numbers from which the quotation is taken must appear in the text, and the complete reference, where is it? It's in the works cited page. All right. Remember, the author's name may appear either in the sentence itself or in the parenthesis following the quotation or paraphrase. But the page number should always appear in the parenthesis, not in the text of your sentence. Please make sure that it is so. All right. If you observe the slide here, both the citations tell the reader that the information in the sentence can be located on page 263 of a work by the author, right? So if the reader wants more information about this source, they can always turn to the works cited list, where under Wordsworth, they would find the information in the corresponding entry also shown on this slide. I have put it there just so that you can relate it to what I was talking about. Now, what about the print sources? So if you look at the examples here, for print sources like be it books, magazines, scholarly journal articles, newspapers, all the like, okay? Any print sources for that matter, what do? You provide a single word or a phrase. Usually it's the author's last name and the page number. Why do we do that? Because when you provide the word or a phrase in the sentence, you do not need to include it in the parenthetical citation. All right. And they must correspond to an entry which begins with work. If you look at the following example given here, work would be the first thing that appears on the left-hand margin of any entry if you go through the works cited list, right? Now, what if there is an unknown author? How do you cite a work with no known author? So if the source has no known author, just use a shortened title of the work instead of the author's name. Then what you do is you place the title in quotation mark if it's a short work, or you italicize it if it's a longer work. All right. Shorter works like articles, journal articles. Longer works, by that I mean be it plays or books, television shows, the entire websites, etc. And then since it's published, please provide the page number. If you observe here, the example that I have given you, since the reader does not know the author of the article, what did he do? How is it cited? An abbreviated title of article appeared in the parenthetical citation, right? Again, it corresponds to the full name of the article, which appears at the left-hand margin of its respective entry in the works cited list. So that's how the writer includes the title in quotation marks as a single phrase in the parenthetical citation, right? Next, what happens when the author and title are not enough? So if you have two or more works by the same author, or have the same title, more information needs to be gathered to clearly state the references, right? So at that, in such scenarios, we include a differentiating piece of information. What is this differentiating piece of information? You can include, because the title is the same, author is the same, right? And there are a lot of works. So you include differentiating piece of information such as editor or a translator if it's a translated work, or maybe an edition number or a volume number, or you know, uh, maybe the publisher, and if it's the same publisher, maybe there is a different date of publication, so on and so forth. But then this differentiated information, piece of information, it should be inserted in square brackets after the title. All right, in square brackets after the title. So this is how the works cited list would look. Okay. If you put the URL just before, accessed. So let's say we have taken this from a website. Okay, you have cited from that website. So you would give the accessed date. So right before accessed, you can give the URL of the work, so that if they want to go check this particular article, they can do it. So this is how it looks in the list of works cited. What if we have authors with the same last name? If you observe, here we have an author, Miller, but then it's the same last name. So what do? If you have the same last name, include the first initial in your reference. R. Miller, A. Miller. Did you observe that? Okay. And always make sure that your in-text citations refer unambiguously to the entry in your works cited list. Ambiguity has no space here. You need to be extremely important, especially in such scenarios, because there is a scope for a lot of confusion, and the way you cite your work, as we have discussed at the beginning of this session, credibility, right? That also shows the care you take in citing the works that you have referred to, also do mean a lot and are as important as your research um, uh, findings or content or article or publication by itself. All right. So what if the work is by multiple authors? If you look at these examples here, let's say the names of there are two authors, okay, for the same entry. Then the names of two authors are connected with and. You can check the last example. Strong and Ellis, two different authors. If there are only two authors, then this is how it is. What if there are three or more authors? Then what do is you should see who the first author is, then start with the first author's name followed by et al. And it means and all, right? So that is how you cite if there are multiple authors. What if you are citing multiple works by the same author? If you can have a look at the examples here. So if you cite more than one work, multiple work by a particular author, always include a shortened title for a particular work from which you are quoting. Okay. So shortened title of the work that you are quoting. What happens is it distinguishes that work from other works. Okay. If you observe the first example, that is what it's doing, right? And added to that, if the author's name is not mentioned in the sentence, okay, then what you do is you format your citation with author's name, followed by a comma, followed by the shortened title of the work, then followed by the page number wherever it's appropriated. Okay, if you observe the second example, that is what it is doing. All right. Next, how do you cite multi-volume works? That means you should always include the volume number followed by a colon. So cite the different volumes and like whichever volume you're citing from, number of that volume, then followed by a colon, then excuse me, a space after the colon, and then the page number. All right. So if you cite only from one volume, provide only one page number in parentheses. Okay. If you look at the first example, that's what it is. See, 1 colon 14 to 17. What if you're citing something like the Bible? So in that case, you have n number of versions, right? And as each version, it varies in translation again, right? So what do you do then? Be very clear as which Bible you're using. How do you make it clear? You italicize the title first. First, italicize the title. And then you follow it without italicizing the book. Give the book, don't italicize it. And then the chapter and the verse. Then please do not include the page numbers. All right. If you refer references, if your references in the future employ to the same edition, then list only the book, the chapter, and the verse in the parenthetical citations. Apart from this, sometimes you might have indirect sources. All right. What is an indirect source? A source which is cited in an other source. As much as possible, try to avoid it. If you are able to get the original source, it's always better. Sometimes due to lack of access or what for other reasons, if you are unable to access the original and you need to cite the indirect source, then you use qtd dot in quotation. Okay. So if you observe, so what is it that would be in quotation? And then you would put qtd dot space in. All right. Please note that in most of the cases, any responsible researcher would not attempt. It is not at all advisable. Only under unavoidable circumstances you need to do this as much as possible. Again, credibility issues, right? We will have always the entire concept of maintaining the style sheet is one of the most important aspect is credibility, right? So always please avoid doing that. In exceptional cases, if there is absolutely unavoidable situation that you need to quote from indirect sources, then this is how you do it. So, and then if you borrow from multiple, like if you borrow more than once from the same source within single paragraph and you have no other source that intervenes, you may give a single parenthetical reference after borrowing the last line. All right. So what about works that we refer to in time-based media? What do we mean by time-based media? Our audio and video recordings. Okay. In such cases, you have to cite the relevant time or range of the times. Please do not forget to do that. Give the number of hours, minutes, seconds as displayed on your media player, separating the numbers with columns. All right. That is mandatory. You can observe here in this example. You have to give it accurately, including the seconds. What if we have sources without page numbers or any other kind of number? Then don't give the number. Don't, count the number of paragraphs or no, don't do, please do not do that. Just, cite the direct quotation from the oral address or whatever it is and give the name and you're done. Please do not count the paragraphs or pauses in case of oral presentation, or don't do any of such trials if they do not have page numbers. All right. What about short prose quotations? This is the most common aspect that we use in our research papers, right? So if the prose quotation runs no more than 4 lines and if it does not require any special emphasis, you can simply put it in quotation marks and you can just, incorporate it to the text. But then it is definitely mandatory to provide the author and, the specific page citation in the text, and do include a complete entry without fail in your works cited page. That's mandatory, right? And that's, again, shows your credibility. And punctuation marks such as, periods, commas, semicolons, they should appear after the citation. And if you have something like question marks or exclamatory points, they should appear within the quotation marks if they are part of the quoted passage, but always place them after the quotation, after the parenthetical citation if they are part of your text. So based upon their function, you decide whether you have to put it inside or outside, right? Then what if we are quoting more than 4 lines of prose? If your quotation is more than 4 or 5 lines, what do? Just like your paragraph, start your quotation on a new line with the entire quote indented half an inch from the left margin. Unlike the paragraph, here the entire quote, I have given the example here, that is how it has to be indented half an inch from the left margin, but again, maintain the double spacing. And here, please, since you're giving a longer paragraph, please do not indent the first line. If you see, it's not indented, okay? And use a colon to introduce the quotation. And your parenthetical citation should always come after the closing punctuation mark, okay? And what happens if a new paragraph begins in the middle of the quotation? If you are writing and if it's a little longer and then this paragraph ends here and the new paragraph pops in, then what do? You simply indent its first line. And then that shows that within the quoted text, there is a new paragraph that is popping up. That's about prose. Now, what about poetry? Quoting, if you want to quote 1 to 3 lines of poetry, what do? If you quote part or all of any line of verse, and again, the same rule applies. If it does not read any special emphasis, put it in quotation marks within your text and just, it's just the way you do in prose. Alternately, you may also incorporate 2 or 3 lines using a forward slash with a space on each side to indicate to your reader where there is a line break false. Or if a stanza break occurs in the quotation, then what do you do? There we have indented. In prose, what did we do? When the paragraph changes, we indented the first line. In poetry, what do? You put two slashes, two forward slashes. Okay. So if the edition of your text, if it provides line number, sometimes you know, poetry, the editions they give line numbers for each of their lines. Then in such scenarios, you can identify the line numbers, okay, in poetry. But if that's not provided, please do not, just like the way we do not count the paragraphs or, count the pauses in a oral presentation that we have cited to. Similarly, in poetry also, we do not count the number of lines if they are not provided. Instead, what you can do is you can cite the page numbers or, you know, cite another explicit division number if there is one, depending upon the original text. All right. Then what do you do for long quotations in poetry then? You simply use block quotations for two or more lines of poetry. And if the poem is formatted in an unusual way, reproduce the unique formatting as accurately as possible, because in poetry, the way it's formatted does carry special meaning while the meaning is being unraveled. All right. Now, how do we add or omit words? Because we would give, we would take a quotation from a text. We start quoting from a text, and based upon what we as authors of this text want to convey, sometimes we might need to edit the original, right? So in such cases, what you can do is you can put your words in brackets, whatever words that are not part of the original text. Okay, here if you observe in the first example, if you it says the cited, or the quote not cited, or the quoted text is, some individuals make a point of learning every rumor or tale, but then the author wants to include his or her own word. So that square brackets indicate that. All right. Then what do the three dots there in the second example indicate? When it gets too long, you want to omit a few words, right? So the use of ellipses is to indicate that, and it should always be followed by a space before the next word is given. Always remember, it's not about the the ellipse. It Yes. Am I being audible? Am I?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
It is okay.
May I continue?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am. You can.
Thank you. So thank you. So the ellipse would suggest that you want to omit words because they are not so useful, uh, because you want to keep the attention of the reader on the quotation, to grab their attention to what is necessary, what is relevant, what is extremely important. So after the ellipse, it is mandatory for you to give a space and then start the next word. So these are the basics. While if you observe the earlier versions of the MLA style sheet, It has showed writers how to create a works cited entry based upon the source's publication format. Okay. Now, the updated 8th edition, if you see, um, even the updated 8th edition also has demonstrated the documentation. If you observe, even the updated version, it had given only the list of core elements that were there previously. The 9th edition, if you see, it continues to use this, no doubt about it. It explains each of these elements in depth, but if you remember, I have already told you, it expands. So what does the 9th edition do? Instead of asking, how do I cite a book? It also asks, how do I cite a DVD? How do I cite a web page? So the writer now creates an entry by looking at the list of the core elements, which are facts that are common to most works, and then creates the entry by assembling them in a specific order. So these changes have been made especially to reflect the differences on how we consult a book. So if you observe in the updated model, the writer should ask who is the author? What's the title? Regardless of the nature of the source. That's the difference. Previously, in previous editions where source was given emphasis, here the source, instead of, regardless of the source, the title and the author are given emphasis, because our sources these days are innumerable, especially if you observe the post-COVID era. Innumerable. Sometimes a simple WhatsApp message can be so relevant, but then again, the authenticity of sources mandatory. As researchers, we know we need to cross-check, right? So let us look into these aspects, a few of these aspects quickly. So to begin with, as I have just said, as researchers, our sources have increased. So the author can be a writer, artist, or any other type of creator, right? And the author can also be an individual or an organization. The author can be a group or the government itself. Sources are innumerable. So if you observe these different mediums, they are both formatted according to the list of key elements, no doubt about it. But then there are also other types of author situations where, multiple authors peep in, translators peep in, corporate authors peep in, performers, online usernames. So it is important that your readers also know an author's or a person's pseudonym for that matter, or a stage name, or any other name that one is popular to be known with. So when in such a scenario, what happens is you should cite the better known form of the author's name. I've given the example, a few examples here. Like all of us know who the author of Alice's Adventure in the Wonderland is. We know the author by his pseudonym, right? Lewis Carroll is the pseudonym, but we never, usually, we do not use the original name Charles Dodson, right? It's Lewis Carroll that we use. So you need to, there is, more detailed information. So you can, if you want more on this, you can refer to the 9th edition of MLA. online style center. Okay, so you can go there and refer it online. So next, coming to the title of the work, we have looked into author. Now coming to the title of the work. If what if we know if the title of the work is available, we know how to quote it. Books and websites should always be in italics. And then periodicals, journals, magazines, newspaper articles, television episodes, songs should be in quotation mark. But what if a work does not have a title? What do we do then? Then provide a brief and clear description. For example, you have received an email from some XYZ. So what do? You put the title of the source, email, and then that should follow with the order. So email to XYZ or email from XYZ. So depending on the type of the source, it should be either listed in italics or quotation marks, or even when you write email from XYZ, put it in quotation marks. All right? Because it's a that becomes a title. Now, what if it's the title of the container? What is a container in the first place? A container is nothing but a work that contains other work. A containers are nothing but they are larger holes in which the source is located. For example, periodicals, they are, numbered, right? So one particular period, or anthologies, or websites, TV series, podcast series, exhibits. Okay. So if you, for example, you want to cite a poem that is listed in a collection of poems. Okay. So the individual poem which you took as a source, the individual poem which you are quoting would become the source. And the collection of poems would become the container. Is that clear? So in such a situation where you are picking one particular collection from the entirety, the title of the container is usually italicized, and then it is followed by a comma, and then the information that follows next, it describes the container. Look at the first example. So towards meta reading is the title of the essay. Then the future of the book is the title of the edited collection in which the essay has appeared. Okay. Now here, as I told, it can be anything. The container can be anything. It can be a website or a journal which contains multiple articles, or a website which contains multiple posting. It can also be a series consisting of many episodes. So if you look at it this way, if you look at this table, it would observe it carefully, and it helps. You understand what falls under and what does not qualify as a container, what qualifies and what not qualifies as a container, because we also have so many apps and databases these days, so apps and databases, it becomes mandatory for you to cite them only when they're containers of particular works that you're citing. When they become platforms of publications of the work of the works in their entirety. They are just not an intermediate medium that redirects your access to a source published somewhere. The container itself is the source. The container itself is a platform. Okay. For example, if you take Philosophy Books app, it should be cited as a container when you use, if you use any of one of its many works, because the app itself contains all those books in entirety, right? Let's say you have saved a PDF article in Dropbox app. Do you consider it as a container? No, because the PDF article is published elsewhere. The app is merely helping you to, it did not publish the PDF article. It's simply helping you to store it there. So your Dropbox app should not be cited. Whereas the source at which, from where you have collected your particular article and put in the drop, and collected the particular article that you have stored in your Dropbox, that source is the container. So if you observe this by now, I'm sure you would have got a good idea of what what qualifies as a container and what does not. Apart from this, there are n number of other contributors whose source should be credited, be it illustrators, performers, TV show creators, narrators of audiobooks, etc., etc. So if you think their contributions are relevant to your research, or if you think it's necessary to identify source, you can include their names in the document. And occasionally you may also list a key contributor in the author element of your focus, if the author element of your focus is on the work. Okay. In such cases, what do? You would, especially in case of their translation choices, the primary order would be moved to the contributor element preceded by the label by. All right. I have given the examples here. All right. So always remember this if you are using translated versions. What about the version of the book? How would you cite a version which has multiple versions of a work released in multiple forms? When we say version, they are usually called editions, right? So any revised edition of a book, we maybe, yeah, it can be labeled as a revised edition, or sometimes it so happens it can also be a numbered edition, right? Same happens with films as well, right? A film may be released in different versions, such as expanded or director's cut. So you just need to give the number of such versions. When we are talking about number, what does it indicate? It indicates the position in sequence. So the source may use a numbering system for its volume or issue, episode. Everything is numbered, right? Why? When the source includes that, it becomes mandatory. It should be included. So if your source uses another numbering system, include it in your entry. Precede, it should be preceded by term, which helps us identify the kind of division that the different numbering system includes. Two, how do you list the publisher? Because the publisher is primarily responsible for the entity, right? For producing the work or making it available to all of us, for that matter, right? Except for a few sources like periodicals, works published by their author or editor, or a website whose title is the same as its publisher's name, or a website that makes works available but does not actually publish them. For example, YouTube, we have WordPress, we have they are just publishing, but which makes works available, but they don't actually, publish them. So in such cases, you need not mention the publisher's name. You remember the apps and the websites? We were talking about how we quote only the original app that publishes. Same is the case with publisher. All right. So if there is, what if there is more than one publisher and they're all relevant? List them in your citation. What you do is you separate them with a slash and then you list them in the citation. What about the publication date? What is publication date? It's nothing but it tells when the version of the work was published, because if you're citing something later, the information changes, and then you have cited the text and you have used a different version, again credibility issues, right? So it also becomes very important to note the publication date, because the same source may have been published multiple times or through multiple sources, online, offline. Okay. So the date also, because later it might be updated. So it also becomes extremely important to give the publication date in your citation. So what if you're unsure about which date to use? Go back, go with the date of the source's original publication. Look at the first example. If you look at the first example, the periodicals publication schedule goes by season, right? So the document, the issue number, everything has been cited. Then if you look at the second example, it's the primary production, right? Mutant Envy is the primary production company, right? So Hush, when was it released? 1999. So this way, what do? You create a general citation for a television episode. So you observe the publication date very carefully. Next, what about location? What is location? It specifies works location, such as page range, right? So be as specific as possible in identifying. Look at the first example that I have given here. So what is it? Look at it for a second. What can it be? So it can be either an essay in a book or an article. So it should include page number. Now look at the second example that I've given. It's an online source. So this work should include a URL. Now look at the third example. It is an object that you have experienced firsthand, right? In this case, where you have experienced something firsthand, you should identify the place of the actual location, because you're experiencing the object in the museum, right? Here in this example. All right. What are the optional elements? You do have a few optional elements. One is the date of the original publication. If a source has been published more than one date, remember, if a source has been published more than one date, it's up to the writer. The writer may want to include both the dates if it will provide the reader with necessary or helpful information, or he can include only one date which the writer thinks relevant. Next, city of publication. Because what happens is this becomes only necessary in particular instance, like maybe you were published before 1900. Because what happened is pre 1900, they were usually associated with the cities in which they were published. So the document may substitute the city name for the publisher's name. The other optional elements are the URLs. Especially in case of URLs, you need to decide and take your instructor's discretion. All right. And then you have digital object identifiers, which, if you look at the example here, DOI colon space 10 dot, right? So what are these? These are a series of digits and letters that lead to a particular online location or source, right? Usually we observe this in articles in general, and they are often assigned DOIs. This is nothing but this helps us to, ensure that the source is locatable. Even if the URL changes, sometimes the URL changes, they might decide to change the URL, or for various reasons, the URL might change. But then if you have this DOI, digital object, or even if the URL changes, you'll be able to trace your source, right? Then date of access is another thing. When you cite an online source, you should include the date on which you access the material. Since online, sometimes the article which you would have referred to and used and becomes an extremely important document in developing your argument might, for various reasons be either moved or removed as well in some of the instances. So the date of access and DOIs become, they come handy in such situations. With that, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity and the participants for your patient listening. Thank you. Hello?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the interesting presentation and providing us valuable information in a style. Once again, thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Karpuria to for formal vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, ma'am. A very good evening to all. It gives me immense pleasure to deliver vote of thanks for today's session of workshop. I, Dr. Rajneesh, on behalf of organizing team, express my gratitude and respect to speakers who not only spared their valuable time, but also enlighten us with their talk on the subject by clearing our concept and enhance our understanding. In the first session, Dr. Movo detailed us about how to write quality work and how to publish the same in reputed journal. His approach starts with a layman and he expressed his view in a very detailed way. He starts with the basic how we write our research paper, what we have to do, and especially what not to do while writing research paper. In second session, Dr. Gora briefed us about MLA referencing style, how to quote different sources and use it in referencing by enhancing our skills while writing quality work. In the end, I express my gratitude and thanks to all the beautiful participants. It's only your active listening and participation which makes this workshop successful. Hope the workshop will add more knowledge and interesting things in coming days. Once again, I thanks to all.